Hey, welcome to Find Your Summit Friday. I'm Olivia, and I went live with Matt from Rishi Tea yesterday, but another introduction. A lot of students might recognize me. I worked for 2 years as a barista at Summit's Outpost location, but now I've joined the Summit family as their brand rep, so I've transitioned within the Summit team, and I'll be starting this Find Your Summit Friday podcast video live project, where each week we'll be going live every Friday with different guests. Today we're with, but yeah, we thought it would be awesome to start with our awesome CEO, Chief Creative, and CEO Brian Helfrich. He's unable to join. Let's see. Brian. Let's see if this works. But yeah, the idea is we'll be talking to people. Here he is.
Yo.
Hey.
Hey.
I was just telling people what we're doing with our project. We'll be
Minute.
talking to different people each week about Find Your Summit, people that are living their best lives through activism, adventure, and pursuing the creative and remarkable. So, yeah, you're a great
Sweet. Way to go. This is a great initiative. I'm really excited that you're taking it on, and I'm excited to be the first guest.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm in the back seat. I'm in the back seat of my car right now for probably the first time in my life.
Yeah, I'm sitting upstairs at base camp.
Andrew and Tyler are in the front seat, and I'm in the back seat.
Nice. Hi, guys. So I had a whole series of questions that I plan to ask you, but
Great.
first, word on the street that I have to ask about is that you ran a marathon this morning because...
That's true. And
Okay.
candidly, about 20 minutes ago, I felt awful. And that's when you messaged me to ask if I was ready to go. That's why I said I guess, because I was sitting in a parked car in Noda while Tyler and Andrew took a meeting with our contractor for a new Noda store, and I couldn't even go inside. But now I feel great.
Great. Well, I'm glad that you've had a rebound.
Yeah, I did. But yeah, I did that.
Cool. Well, Noda store, for people who haven't heard, we're opening a Noda. We're super pumped about it. Should be opening at the end of the summer. So yeah, check that out if you're in the Charlotte area. But the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is Find Your Summit. That's what this whole series is about. And I haven't even, I don't know who came up with the Find Your Summit slogan. So my question is, who came up with Find Your Summit and what does it mean to you?
It's a fun story. I was on a plane to Guatemala in March of 2017. And somebody recently had asked me what Summit stands for, and I just was sort of on my mind. I didn't really have a good answer. And so I was on the plane to go meet some coffee farmers, and it sort of came to me. There was a mountaineer that we have partnered with for a lot of years, Eric Weinmeier, who was who was the first blind mountaineer to summit Mount Everest, and then the 7 summits. And he had a quote that we had on a summit shirt for a long time that said, a summit isn't a physical place, it's sort of a place in your mind. And I expounded on that to think about the idea of what does Find Your Summit really mean? And so for some people, literally, it's the adventure of, climbing a mountain. And sort of that is what the business of Summit Coffee was founded on. We were a mountaineering company, but it is pivoted, I think, to be more aspirational and also personal. And the idea that whatever it is that you're pursuing, and so whether you're going into a meeting on your way to work, or whether you're at home with your family, or you're running a marathon, whatever it may be, that you determine what your summit is, what your peak is for that day, for that action, and you just sort of relentlessly pursue it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's kind of why I love our slogan, is it's so applicable to such a variety of lifestyles and stories. It's kind of freeing to just think in the Find Your Summit headspace each day.
You guys are getting a sneak peek driving tour where you can't see much because I'm in the back seat of a car, but we are driving around Charlotte looking at a handful of locations. And so we'll see where we end up next.
Yeah, cool. Check it out. We're trying to pop up in some more places.
That's not a very
Um,
good view, if anybody can guess where we are.
I don't know. I should
That's
know.
the decal I put on the back of my truck that I didn't know I couldn't see through until I put it on the back of my truck.
I mean, it looks good from the outside, so
It
that's what
does. It does
matters.
not help me drive.
Um, cool. All right. Well, I want to cover like a couple different points here.
Yeah, that's
So,
me, whatever.
yeah, you personally have taught me so much about the importance of staying curious and finding inspiration. That's kind of like a summit, um, thing that we work on.
Yeah, it's one of our core values, Olivia.
Yeah, it's our core values, and it's something that you can find in everything around you. And you encourage all of us here at Summit to constantly seek education and ask questions, which is one of the reasons I love working for you guys. So first off, though, just generally, what inspires you? Who inspires you? All of that.
The who is easy. I mean, I'm my family on all sorts of levels. So my wife, Tyler, is a creative inspiration for me, my kids. I grew up as one of 7, so all of my siblings are doing really cool things. And, we're from 2 really cool parents, and that's the who. The what inspires me is it is sort of the wondering what I can do. I mean, it's the same thing that made me want to get up and run a marathon this morning. It's like, why not try something and see what you can do and see how capable you are? And sort of how we're approaching Summit right now is this relentless curiosity about, how far can you push yourself, and what can you learn? And there's I think a certain relentless intellectual curiosity that I have and that our staff has, and that's where it led us to franchising and to going to these Colorado things and the outdoor retailer show. And I think that the inspiration of doing things that have never been done this way or at all, and testing ourselves, that's exciting to me. I don't really have much interest in trying to repeat the same thing every day, so
Yeah,
trying to be fresh.
cool. Yeah, keeping it fresh, pursuing new things. I think you're also really good at seeking inspiration in less obvious places. So, like you said, like pursuing things that have never been done before. But I'm curious. I think we all have these instances in our life where we meet people or have these like one-off experiences that we don't keep up with the person, or they're just like super like flashbulb moments in the like greater narrative of our lives, but they can leave like super long lasting impacts. Do you have an example of such a case that's like influenced you today?
It's a great question. A moment, or again, I think it's things that I learn from. I try to make every moment a learning moment, and whether it's a trip with my family and getting to know people a little bit better, or something we pursue at work, I don't really have any aha moments. I'm a real reader, and so probably I'm not sure I've ever described myself as a real reader. I read magazines. I don't really like books. It took me like 7 years to read a book after college, but I often get really inspired by what other companies are doing. I'm inspired by like cool brands, and so right now I'm on a big kick with Sweet Green, the salad company that's started in Georgetown in 2007 and is sort of pivoted a bunch of times into being more of a tech forward company, and now they're doing some really cool things with delivery, and they're really just a company that we pay a lot of attention to. And so I'm big on any content I can get about Sweet Green right now.
Yeah, cool. I think that's one thing I've definitely tried to look at is like cool companies that maybe aren't necessarily coffee related, but that we love to follow and get ideas from.
And I also, I mean, I've mentioned it and I've written about it before, but we opened a Huntersville store in 2018 that failed really, really fast.
Yeah.
Like we were open and closed within 3 months, and I think that was a really good learning moment to balance curiosity with also some good analytical data and checking yourself in a sense, because you need to have a little bit of humility. I think we thought that Huntersville was going to be a really easy success in some ways for no good reason, but we sort of assumed it was going to be a success, and it was a hard lesson to learn. But one thing that somebody said to me was like, one of the keys to being successful is knowing how to fail fast. And so that's certainly what Huntersville was. I was with Andrew on like a Tuesday, and we decided we're going to close Huntersville. And then on Wednesday, Andrew got a U-Haul, and we drove down there and called them and told them we were leaving and packed up a U-Haul, and we were out in about 90 minutes. And that was a good lesson to learn.
Yeah, but I think it was important that you guys recognized that it wasn't working. Instead of trying to keep pushing, you just said, okay, like, we can learn from this and move on.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. It's hard. I'm an achiever in the Enneagram, so like failure is really hard for me. But you also have to know how to fail, because it's impossible to have 100% success rate, even a 50% success rate. I mean, you're going to constantly fail when you try to be great, and that was a hard lesson for me to learn.
Yeah, but that's how you grow. So,
Right.
All right. So we kind of covered the influence part of what I think is Find Your Summit. But my next question I want to ask is, obviously a large piece of your life revolves around the coffee business.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the big puzzle pieces of Finding Your Summit is like the adventure component of it all. So you've mentioned before that you've never not wanted to go to work, and you like genuinely love what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But you've also like understandably hit creative ruts before. So my question is, what do you do to keep that sense of curiosity and excitement within like the blur of what can become like long business days?
I think it's a couple things. It's a great question. I think one is we don't really pursue anything anymore that we're not passionate about. I think that was something we learned most notably at the Outpost. We kept trying to make things and sell things that we weren't passionate about, and it's just like, if you're not driven by what you're doing, it's going to be really hard to find ways to success. And the second thing is surrounding myself internally on the Summit staff with people who inspire me and push me and challenge me to remain curious. And I've been working with Andrew for 7 years, and Dora and Jamie, and and my brother Tim's coming back, and I mean, there's so many people that have sort of sit in and listen to me talk and share articles, and then they learn to call me out on my shit when it's like, hey, you say this is going to be really fun, and this isn't that fun. And so it's an important thing to surround yourself with people who are also really smart and understand what we're trying to do, and keep you in check.
Yeah, of course. That's one of the reasons I love working for Summit. I kind of think of us as like a big family that like isn't afraid to call each other out, but like also support each other in the best ways.
And it's one of the reasons we wanted to, not to make this like, let's just Brian and Olivia talk about each other, but I think it's one of the reasons we wanted to work with you is because, we felt like you were willing to take risks and put yourself in a room where some people, you're a little bit younger than us, and some people might have been a little intimidated, and you were like, well, I got invited to this room, so I'm going to be in this room. And it's, I think it sort of requires that attitude.
Yeah, it's been a fun adventure. It's only been a month so far, but it's been cool to kind of step up in a new role.
Yeah.
But outside of the business, more importantly, in what ways do you continue to challenge yourself to do the unexpected and veer out of the business lane for a bit and live life to the fullest in other areas of your life?
One thing that was really important for me was not to try to, and it took me a long time to learn this, but was not to try to find a work-life balance. Like I go to work at this time, I am home at this time, because that made me feel consistently like I was neglecting something, which didn't work for me. So at the core of it is like finding a cohesion of work and life. But outside of work, I really like my family, which is a blessing, and it's really nice. I live a quarter mile from one of our stores, and get to see my family all the time. And this pandemic has been like a wonderful break, and getting to hang out with them. And running is like a super good grounding pursuit for me. It's something that I do pretty relentlessly. I've run every day since the stay-at-home order came in place. I just decided that I was going to run as much as I could. and that
A
is
marathon.
yeah. Right, and today might have been the last day, based on how I feel right now.
Yeah.
But running is fast. I'm not the fastest runner. I'm not. In some ways, like I'm not built like a runner, but I do it, and it's good for me mentally. And it also is good to, not to be too metaphorical about things, but to have good runs, to have bad runs, to have short runs. And I think it's taught me a lot about pacing in my life. And so it's like
Yeah.
not every day can be a 20-mile run that you sprint the whole time. And, and it's the same with work and it's the same with parenting. And that's so running and in family time. Travel is another big thing for me, which is weird right now because this is probably the longest I've ever been in one place since college. I'm just here, and we love travel, but hopefully that'll come back to us sometime soon.
Some point, hopefully. Um, okay, so within travel, what's the big 2020 adventure for you personally? For you personally, and then what's the 2020 adventure for Summit?
For me personally, the 2020 adventure. It's hard for me to know. We were gonna go to what trips do we have? And we were gonna go to the Dominican Republic. We had a lot of trips that we've canceled, actual adventures. My marathon today at some points felt like pretty much of an adventure. And I think for Summit, we've pretty much decided to step on the gas right now. And we're fortunate that we've hung in there pretty well during the pandemic. And we've been a lot more fortunate than some other businesses our size. And I think we're going to try to really grow right now. Obviously, we're driving around Charlotte looking at new spots. And and so I think the challenge is going to be with growing Summit in general, how do you take the things that people love about Summit, the community, the intimacy, the outdoor space, the Friday nights, how do you take that and how do you scale that? And so that is our biggest challenge to figure out, how do you prepare a staff? How do you enter new markets and have it feel the same? So.
Yeah, no, that's one thing I love about Summit is the community engagement aspect of it all. So I'm excited to see how that looks in new communities.
Me too.
Cool. So we've kind of touched on two themes, like the influence and adventure.
Sure.
I feel like the final and arguably largest component of Find Your Summit that I want to cover is staying active and just unabashedly pursuing goals.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple questions on this. First off, I've heard you talk about this before, but for the wider audience, are you more short-term or long-term goal-oriented?
It's tricky. I'm very long-term goal-oriented, but again, as a type 3 Enneagram, for people who that resonates with, I need victories to keep me going, but I've gotten better at being able to see the longer picture the more I've focused on figuring out what that is and the clarity of it. And so, right now we've are working on the details of a sort of the 2025 vision, and that is obviously pretty long term. We won't go more than 5 years because I won't trust myself to not abandon a plan, but I think we can commit to 5 years. It takes us.
Yeah. Cool. So, that's kind of like the Summit, talking about Summit goals. But I'm kind of thinking, like, in your personal life, you've got two super cute, intelligent, and driven kids. In raising Day and Silas, do you see yourself as, like, actively trying to inspire goals, like certain goals in them? Or do you see yourself as more the cheerleader that you've mentioned before, like as your family role, and just encourage them to make their own goals, but like fostering their own ambition?
That's a good question. I think definitely the latter. I think that the way that my wife Tyler and I both parent is we want to make our kids feel safe and loved and also support it, but also to make them make their own decisions and ask their own questions and, in a lot of ways find their own answers. And so sort of have a discovery and a curiosity about them and how they live their life. And, if my kids want to play soccer, I will I will take them to soccer, and if they want to do dance, I will take them to dance. And I certainly have no agenda on what their life is going to look like, as long as they're um, kind. And that's really one of our only family rules is to be kind. And we sort of tell our kids that as long as they do that, then they can do whatever else they want.
Yeah, so being this like cheerleader and encouraging presence, is that how you see yourself as interacting with members of your staff, or do you see yourself as having to kind of like be more of like a guide with staff members?
There's definitely some synergies. I mean, I like the idea of setting people up for success and working through helping them identify what success looks like and then getting out of the way. But I think I'm probably a little more hands-on at work than I am at home. Or I mean, there's probably some combination back and forth. But I think as we grow, it's good for me and for all the people like you and who are working with me to have a mutual trust. Like I
Yeah.
can take risks and Brian will support me, even if they go poorly. It's okay, because if Summit is reliant on me to come up with the ideas, to come up with the initiatives, then we're going to grow very slowly, and it's going to be very one-dimensional. And I don't really know what I'm doing. I mean, I try to figure it out as I go along. So the more ideas and the more people that are also staying curious and setting their own goals, the better.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think one of the most crucial parts of setting and pursuing and ultimately achieving these successes have to do with like a level of introspection within yourself, because I think there's kind of like an inherent necessity for self-understanding and self-motivation and like setting goals for yourself, but then also
Yeah.
helping others achieve them. So who taught you to understand yourself? Do you think there was like a certain person that like helped you learn that?
Probably. I mean, I think there's been different phases of getting to understand myself. I think in like the most genuine self that I know today. I mean, I think my wife Tyler probably pushes me to dig a little deeper than I ever had to. I was the youngest of four boys growing up, and then we adopted three kids. I was one of seven, so there was never a ton of uh, like focus on my identity. But it was, and not any fault. I mean, my parents loved me and took care of me, and it was great. But the other person was, I had a landmark moment. Going back to one of your earlier questions, when I was 16, I played soccer at a boarding school in Connecticut, and it was like what I did. And all my brothers had been successful and played college soccer, and were all Americans, and that's great. But my coach told me, he was like, "You are never going to be as good at soccer as your brothers." And so I encourage you to sort of find out who you are outside of that. And that was like, as a 16-year-old, was a pretty hard thing to hear, but it was also very important, because there was still plenty of runway in my life to shift gears a little bit. And so that took me into, to really pull back the curtain here, that took me into a cappella singing, which took me into theater, which ended up being my minor at Davidson, and now into this.
Yeah, cool. So that's who taught you to understand yourself. But obviously, Summit as a company has company-wide goals that must be kind of endorsed by the entire Summit staff or team. And as a CEO, like I feel like it's it's not really your responsibility, but a little bit, to create a level of buy-in. So who taught you to understand others?
I think it was important for me growing up, but my parents were really big into, being also kind and thoughtful and inclusive. And they made the decision when I was a teenager to adopt three kids, two of whom were my cousins, one of whom was my best friend, who needed parents in their lives. And that was a moment where, I was 13 or 14, all my brothers were in college or out of college. And so it was the time for me to get the attention. And we sort of had the conversation with my parents about how, this was bigger than us and bigger than me. And So I think my parents leading by example and saying, we have this opportunity to make a difference in these lives and we should do it, was sort of it's what I wrote my college essay about, like a landmark
Yeah.
moment to say, you know, always think outside yourself.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty unique moment that like not a lot of us would experience in our lives. To be
Yeah, to try to figure out how to interact with three new siblings.
yeah, three new siblings when you're still trying to figure yourself out at that age,
Yeah.
kind of a pivotal age. Um, yeah, that's it's a cool experience, um, which I think reflects how you treat all of us today, which is awesome. So that's kind of all my questions on Find Your Summit, themes. But I want to end each story
Mm-hmm.
off with a set of rapid fire questions
Okay.
that give a little more insight into your life that wouldn't necessarily be touched on
And
in like our casual conversation.
just so everybody knows, Olivia and I haven't talked about these questions at all. So she even offered to send me the questions and I refused. So we have not spoken about this at all.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll be fine. Okay, first, how do you drink your coffee?
I get a black coffee at 6 a.m. every morning, and I wait about 35 minutes to drink it because I don't like hot coffee.
I do the exact same thing, and I did not know.
I actually hate hot coffee.
Yeah, okay. We're on the same page on that one. Do you drink blends or single origins?
Single origins usually, but I've really started to fall in love with Basecamp, which is our house blend, which I didn't drink for probably 2 years. But when we were in Colorado for the outdoor retail show, that was the only coffee we brought. And I had multiple moments where I'd have it and I was like, wow, this coffee's really good.
Yeah, I love Basecamp.
Yeah.
Okay. Fill in the blank. Success
is personal.
I like that. Yeah.
Andrew's laughing at me.
But I like that though. All right. What's your Enneagram? You said it earlier.
Yeah, I'm a 3-2, so I'm an achiever with a caregiver wing, or whatever number 2 is. Helper wing.
Okay, great. And Myers-Briggs?
ENFP.
That makes sense. All right. What's your most memorable concert you've been to?
My favorite band growing up, and this maybe plays into my cheerleader as a sibling. My brother Tim, before he bought Summit, was in a touring band called Cast Iron Filter.
Nice.
And they broke up in 2004 when Tim bought Summit, or shortly after. In 2010, my dad got them back together for a reunion show to surprise my mom for her 60th birthday, and that was pretty incredible. That was a good moment, I think.
Was that reunion show here at Summit?
No, it was at the Evening Muse in Charlotte.
Okay, cool.
I was on stage for a few songs. It was all a little bit of a blur, but it was
awesome.
There's the photos from that night are pretty good.
All right. Well, I wrote these questions before our conversation. You said you weren't much of a reader, but what's the last book you read?
The last book I read is This Is Marketing by Simon Sinek, which is a really good book. I read almost exclusively business books. Like I haven't read a non-business book in probably 4 years, which maybe makes me a little boring, but I just, there's so many good business books to read. Like I just read Essentialism and I nerd out on books like High Output Management and those are my page turners.
Well, and like business books and like business practices are constantly evolving. So, I mean, there's always fresh material to read.
Well, and I feel like, I think it's because I feel like I can share these with like employees like you. Like I can go into work and I can find people that are excited to talk about different management strategies.
Well, yeah, for sure. For people who don't know, we have like a little shelf at the roastery that's got a bunch of these books on it. And I actually just took like 3 home the other day.
Brian's books.
Like, well, yeah. I want to read these. Okay. Camping or glamping?
That's funny. I hate camping. I don't know. I just whisper that. People could probably still hear me. I've long fought the idea that I disliked camping because it feels like from a personal brand standpoint, I need to be a camper, but I hate it. I hate being uncomfortable. I'm either too hot or too cold. Yeah, so glamping, I guess, is the other choice. So let's go with that.
Yeah, glamping. I mean, yeah, sweet. Um,
Like it's funny. Like I will be rugged. I'll run wherever, and then but at night, if I have to spend in the tent, I feel gross.
yeah, you want to be comfortable at night. I mean, that's fair. Doesn't mean you don't love the outdoors.
It's true.
All right, what's something you learned in the past week?
Um. What's something I learned in the last week? I guess I probably need to answer this, not look for help. I think that it's a constant lesson that I learned, but reiterated, just like to surround myself with work and with people in life that that sort of are not in alignment with me, because I don't want to, because I'd like to be challenged, but like especially at Summit, I would say that we're doing so much that we really want people that want to be at work, that want to have fun. Like I think Summit's a great place to work. Not everyone does, and that's okay. And so not to take that personally, but that it also is like a really cool thing that we get to do together. And I don't like to spend as much time, trying to convince people to be excited about work.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. Creating the best work environment possible and just letting people latch on or not. Okay, here's my final question to kind of like wrap up. What are some words to live by? Other than find your summit, you can't use find your summit.
I mean, I think be kind. I think is as important now as it's ever been. Our world. There was a customer at Summit, a woman named Jean Berg, who's been in the Pines and we haven't seen for 4 months because they're on lockdown. But she told me once that when we were raising kids that I made some comment about how smart Bay was, my daughter, and she said, "Well, you should know that. Just remember that the world has plenty of smart people. What the world needs is more kind people." And so, and that goes to sort of how we raise people too. How we raise our kids is be kind, ask questions. Is something I always say to people is that I like to surround myself with people that ask questions, and the people who, ask the best questions get the best answers.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that. World has
and have fun. And I guess that's awesome. It's our last core value at Summit. So all I can end it on that is like, whatever that looks like for you, it's like just try to find fun in your life. I think it's important.
Yeah, I think that's what makes life worth living ultimately.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, reminder, we had
Who's next
this week? Oh, Chris Clooney. Tune in next week. Davidson AD, he's awesome. He joined Davidson 2 years ago.
From the NBA?
Yeah, from the NBA. He graduated from Davidson, played basketball at Davidson. But yeah, I'll be chatting with him. He's done made some really cool changes, has some awesome initiatives. I was an athlete at Davidson, so got to interact with him a lot. But yeah, it's T Week 2, 25% off of T10s online, Monday through Friday.
Yeah, so you've upped the number of college athletes on our Summit staff. It's really helpful for us.
Yeah. Yep.
You and Tim.
Tim? I didn't realize what Tim did.
Tim played soccer and football at Davidson.
Oh, nice. I did not know that.
He kicked for the football team. You should ask him about it. You guys will talk for hours.
Okay, great. I'll definitely ask about that. And then other reminder, Give Back Friday this week. We're contributing to Colors of Change. They're an awesome organization. So proceeds today in all our stores, and then any online sales through the weekend will be contributed to that.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for this initiative. This is it's really cool, and I'm excited to see all the neat people you have coming on.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. We've got some cool guests lined up. So thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Olivia.